Hey, Rana, good morning.
Good morning, Warren. How are you? First time we've
I
done this live stream thing, right?
this is really cool. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to doing this. So for everybody that's out there, we are doing something called StreamYard. We're using a product called StreamYard,
Mhm.
and what's really great about it is it lets us uh, stream to multiple platforms. So we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, which is really cool. So thank everyone for being here.
Yes.
And
Ooh.
yeah, this is really cool. And what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm just going to just doing a little adjustment here so I can go full screen so I can see everybody really good. There we go. We are going to talk about navigating the holidays and some of the struggles around it. And I'm just going to start with a story. I was going to do a live stream today, and it didn't work out because the holidays get in the way sometimes emotionally, and people struggle emotionally, and so it's just a tough time for people. And whether
Yes.
you're dealing with a recent breakup or divorce, or even long term, even if it goes back years, there are residual impacts and there are residual effects, and you don't really think about it sometimes. And then as the days get closer and the reality of the holidays kind
Yeah.
of set in, I think that's when people really grasp the gravity of it. And, it's even, Rana, we talked last night about, we had
Yeah.
this party set up for my mom, right, for her birthday. And unfortunately she got COVID and we had to pivot. But that's what we did. We pivoted, and we're
Yeah.
going to still do something this Saturday. And the funny thing is, Ronnie, she called me like 20 minutes ago, and someone had called her and kind of let the cat out of the bag. And so now it's not a surprise on Saturday, but
No.
it is
But
what it is,
it,
right? And
right.
it's still going to happen. I think it actually takes a little pressure off because she's not going to walk into this big thing that she wasn't
Hmm.
expecting. So she's very upset that now that she knows that there was something planned and it didn't happen the way we wanted it to, she's kind of upset with herself for getting sick. But it it's
Can't
life,
help
right? I
it.
mean, it
Yeah.
just goes on, and you can't. And the crazy thing is, and I know we're kind of moving away from the
It's all
holidays right now, but
relevant. It's all relevant.
the more I've been talking to so many people this week that have COVID, like it came out of like nowhere, right? And it was like you didn't
Mm.
hear a lot about it. Now I know 5 people that all have it, and thank God their symptoms aren't significant. It's
Yeah.
more like a cold, and I think hopefully,
Able to stay
whether
that
you're a
way.
vaccination person or not, I think there is some support to it because it did make it less. And my mom actually tested positive again this morning, but I said sometimes that second test is a false positive after you've had it for it's been 5 days for her, but she's good. But it's just, you know what, it's the craziness of the holidays. And so that's what we really want to talk about today is these next couple weeks are hard for people. And so we just want to give some insights and some guidance and some personal reflection of the holidays. So I don't know, Ron, if you want to just throw in some words. Well, first
Well,
of all, Ron, why don't you introduce yourself? Because
yeah.
there are people that are on some of these platforms that don't really know a whole lot about us. So why don't we start there?
Yeah. And so I'm going to talk about us first, and then I'll talk about me
Mm,
individually.
okay,
So Warren and I have a community called Our Journey from We to Me that we created back in 2020. And it's really relevant because we created it because we needed support as we both were going through the divorce process. You were already in it, I think, and had come out of it, right? And
right.
I hadn't even filed yet, I think, in 2020. And through that connection, we found out that after I had filed and just going through the process, we found out that probably one of the number one things that is so important when you're going through any kind of transition in life, you got to have support. And remember, I looked around and my family, of course, supported me, my friends, and we're talking about outside support because we
Right.
realized as we had the conversation yesterday that sometimes when you're in divorce, the people that were there before, because they were friends of both you and the spouse or whatever, have to pick sides. And so they're gone.
Right.
They're gone. We talked about
Gone.
this last
Yeah,
night.
last night,
Oh my gosh.
absolutely.
And they're gone. And so realizing that, I had to seek outside the community. And as we've talked about before, since we're here, there was no support in the Black community for divorced people. I'm going to say that
Right,
again.
right. Yep,
There was no support in the Black churches or even in the community for divorced people. Go and Google it yourself. Divorce care basically in the churches outside the Black community. So, because of that, I needed support. And Warren was on Instagram one day, fixing a sandwich for his son. We still go back and forth about whether it was breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It was a meal. And it was like a pivotal point. You know, sometimes in life, there are people that have to meet. There are situations that have to happen, and you just never know
yep.
why they happen, but they happen the way they do. And because of that, and all of that, where we were transitioning, both of us through divorce, we created a community called Our Journey from We to Me. And on every Monday, we have community meetings, and people come and go because divorce is only for a period. You know, I mean, you
Right,
may be divorced for your life, but still, that process is only through a period. And this past season, as in every season, we have a series called Navigating the Holidays, because we understand that even though I'm now almost 5 years, 4 years, almost 4 years post divorce, you still need support no matter what. And the community has really expanded past divorce to everyone who just needs a support system, coping skills, resources, and so forth. So
right.
that's about us. Now, about
That's us.
me, I am a certified life coach, a consultant, and a coordinator of Rana Perry Life Coaching. We'll be changing that name pretty soon. And so we just decided, based on our Monday night groups, of just come and just talk and share. Most times we're on Instagram, but we're trying to expand past our normal, because we do the same thing all the time. They call it insanity. So that's just a little background. I need to get some water. So, Warren, okay. What I gathered, I'm always writing something. So let's talk about how to navigate the holidays with unexpectancies. Because that was huge, because when you told us last night, because we have been talking all this
What are we
planning and
talking
all,
about? Yeah,
it was like the premier thing of the year. You know,
it was, right?
like, so now, how do you deal with unexpectancy? Because we know sometimes divorce is very unexpected,
Right.
but dealing with unexpectancy, navigating through the holidays, what would you, a pointer or some?
Yeah, I think it's and I just did I've been writing about it, and I think so mindfulness, right? It's kind of like self-control. Like, you have to
Mm,
take control of the situation mentally,
yeah,
because if you let it overwhelm you, Ron, you can't get out of it, right? It is a whirlpool that will
yes,
suck you in,
yeah,
and you're done, right? So how do you it's kind of like, what do they talk about? Riptide, right? So when you're in a riptide, if you try to swim in the riptide, it's going to pull
hmm,
you out to sea.
yep,
If you swim across the riptide, you get out of it, right? And so the only way to get out of it is
mm,
to go across. And so you
mhm,
have to have that strategy. What are you going to do when something happens? Because the reality is, life continuously throws you situations.
mhm,
If you don't plan, and you can't plan for everything, right? But if,
right,
if the plan is simply in your mind, you're not going to let it overwhelm you, then it won't overwhelm you. You
mhm,
have to be able to pause. I talk about PPA all the time: pause, process, act. And that, for me, has
mhm,
changed so much for me, right? Because I pause for a minute, and I kind of, like Thursday night when my mom texted me at 10:30 at night, "Oh, by the way, I have COVID." What do you do, right?
yeah,
And so I literally sat on the edge of the bed, and I just paused, and I said, "Okay, now what? What are the next steps?" All right, well, I got to call the boys, and I got to call my sister, and everything was a process.
mhm,
And once you have a process, then you act on that process and you move yourself out of it. But if you just react and you
Wow
don't
out.
act,
Yep.
it's really game over. And I can't emphasize that enough. Is an immediate reaction is the worst thing you can do, because it is just in that moment thought.
Yes.
And for me personally, 99% of the time, it's the wrong action.
Of course.
Right. And I think for
Yeah.
most people, it's the wrong action because it's just that instantaneous,
Yes.
I got to do something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, you don't. You know what? That pause could be 30 seconds. That pause could be an hour, whatever you need that pause to be, to allow yourself to process what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you want to do? And maybe what you want to do is you want to crawl in bed and cry,
That's right.
but that's okay
Yeah.
because you thought about what you needed to do. Right. And that is, I think, the biggest thing is just take the time to understand where you are. And then what do you want to do? How do you want to get out of it? Do you want to call a friend? Do you want to go shit? Everybody processes things differently,
Yeah.
but you need to process.
And we need to have a method at which to process, because that's
Yeah.
why a lot of us just wild out. And coping is a skill. And we only gain that skill, right, by having to cope. You know what? That's the only way we get the skill of having to cope. And so some of the things, I'm always writing things down that I hear that you're saying that in order to deal with that unexpectancy, we first have to be flexible.
Yes.
We can't be so rigid. And for a controller, such as myself, according to positive intelligence, that's hard because my immediate thing is like, I hear something and I've got to get control of it. It's something that's out of my control. It's unexpected. So I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
So, I've got to get
Right.
it. So be flexible. Well, first of all, take pause. Take pause. And, that's all of my 5-step guide on how to deal with unexpected requests. Breathe. Because when someone tells you, I'm not sure. Well, let me just ask you, when your mom called for a moment, you probably kind of lost your breath, I'm sure, didn't you?
I was so overwhelmed by that
Yeah.
message.
Yep.
It was almost like it wasn't real. It was like everything we planned, Rana.
No,
I mean,
I
it
know.
kind of goes back in parallel to the divorce, right?
Yeah.
Everything
Yep.
that I had planned, and then there was that one thing
Yes.
that I didn't plan for that blew up in my face.
Yep.
Same situation. For 5 months, we thought we had it all bang. And the last thing we ever thought about, and we didn't plan for it, was mom getting sick. Right
No.
now, in hindsight, do you think that a 90-year-old person may get sick in the winter? Yeah, we probably should
Yeah.
have thought about that, but we
Yes.
didn't, right? Everything was positive. This is going to be really cool. It's really good. Let's not even think about the possibility. Like we even thought about, well, what if it snows? Because you never know.
Right.
December in Connecticut, it could, right? Ice, whatever. What do we deal with?
But not
But
that.
so back to your point of when she texted me, yeah, I looked at my phone for a while and read it a couple of times to process like, oh my God, now what do we do? Right.
Exactly.
And again, it wasn't that immediate reaction of overwhelm. It was sit on the edge of the bed. To your point, take a couple of deep breaths, get control of your thoughts,
Yep.
and then figure out what you're going to do. And I think that minute that seemed like a long time changed everything for me because it put me back in control.
Yes.
And I said, okay, now the project manager kind
Yeah.
of comes out and goes,
Boom, boom,
right,
boom. Yes, no,
here's what you got to do, and here's what you got to, here you have to call, and here's
Yeah.
what you have to. But you need that structure in your mind, right? And I think that's what it comes down to is just having whatever structure works for you. That's what you need to rely on. Sometimes it's having a friend that you can talk to about it, and sometimes you just have to do it on your own. But you need something, and I think you're so vital in this process because people need coaches, right? A lot of people can't do this on their own. They're in such a place that they can't see
Mhm.
beyond, what is it called? They can't see beyond the
And
trees,
that's
right?
right. Yes.
They're stuck in the forest. You can't see
Mhm.
beyond. They need someone like you to help guide that path and guide them forward. But if you can do it on your own, you still need that kind of planning to figure it out.
And I tell all of my clients, you have everything you need. All you do, like an athlete. Now some athletes get on there and it's like, no, you shouldn't even be out there on the field. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Most people can perfect a skill.
right.
Most people, as we go through life, everybody has had challenges. Everybody.
Everybody.
And it's just reminding yourself of how you got through the last challenge, what skills you used, what you didn't use, who you called, who was there, and who was not. And so once you kind of remind yourself each time, it becomes to be just a habit, like you were talking about. It becomes
Right.
to be a habit, yet it becomes a habit because you have to use it due to unpleasant circumstances. Yet once you decide, okay, I can't wild out every time someone calls me about things. And there are going to be times, of course, when there are no times to breathe. Like you've got to get into action, but you still got to breathe. If not, you suffocate. But so there's still some techniques. Breathe. I'm doing nighttime yoga. I'm telling you what, I have not had to have a melatonin in like 3 weeks, and that is huge
Awesome.
for me.
Yep.
And it's just breathing, it's
Just breathing.
stretching. And
Yep.
and it reminds me when I stretch of how far I have gone that day, like how many unexpected requests I've gotten that day. Yet here I am, here
Right.
I am.
Yep.
And so when you deal with unexpectancy, breathe, don't don't respond right away,
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
when we're talking about the holidays and everything, because life is so uncertain. So we get those tools. Mindfulness, you talked about mindfulness, being mindful of how you deal with situations, how you deal with adversity.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
mindfulness is such a thing of how am I wired.
That's exactly what it is. How am I wired? Yeah.
Exact. And being true. Like if I'm wired so jacked up so everything just rattles me, be honest about that. Say I'm a rattler and I'm always jacked up. I'm always on the edge, Shug. I'm always on the edge, Warren. If that is you, then be honest with that. Be mindful of how you cope with things. Don't you? I mean, I think that's fair to yourself. Any other way would just be a lie to yourself.
Well, you have to be fair to yourself, and then you have to, once you're fair to yourself and you understand that you're a rattler, then it's understanding the strategies as a rattler
Yeah.
to cope with whatever it is, right? Because
Yeah.
typically I'm pretty laid back and nothing. I don't get super rattled, but when I
You
do,
sure
it
don't.
it it puts me in a whole different place. And so the strategy was PPA, right? Pause, process, act has really, and it's not a voluntary thing, right? And I think that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
Pause, process, act is a conscious thing that I have to remember to do. It's not a subconscious thing that's just there.
Mm,
What's subconscious for me is,
just
oh my God, react. What am I going to do?
mm,
Consciously, I have to think, no, stop, pause, process, act, figure it out. And that takes to your point of being an athlete, right? It takes training.
yes, it
You
does.
have to train your body to do whatever you're going to do. I have to train my mind
Mhm,
to pause, process, and act. And so when I get into a situation,
mhm.
I kind of know how to deal with it. So another example, and then I want to take this a little bit differently into going into the weekend with Christmas and that. But
Yes.
so on Sunday, we had some family in that couldn't make it to the party.
Mhm.
So we all went out to lunch. And my former was there, and the boys were there. I think there's like 12 of us. It was really nice. But mentally, it was when I see her and when she's going to interact with Sandra, what
Mhm.
is the dynamic? How am I going to manage that dynamic? Am I going to, and so
Mhm.
even that, when you have it in your mind, it's that game plan, right? We keep going back to an athlete, but it's the same
Yes,
thing. What's the game plan?
that's
And if
right.
the game plan doesn't work, you adjust your game plan, right? But you have to go in to a situation with a plan,
Yes.
because if you go in going, I'm just going to see what's going to
Willy
happen,
nilly. Yeah.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. You don't want to be in that situation. That's what's going to happen. So,
If you really want to know.
but
Yeah.
again,
Mm-hmm.
people don't tend to think about that. A lot of people go, I'm just going to go and see what happens. I get,
Okay.
you know what? You
All right.
probably don't
Have
want to
at
walk through the
that.
door. You
Yeah.
probably don't want to do that. But that's, I think, where the experience comes from, right? And that's why you have a coach, because the coach is going to tell you, no, you can't just run on the field. You better have a play in mind
Yeah.
that you're going to do. Because if you don't have a plan, you know what? The game's going to be over real quick.
And you better
So,
have the armor that you need. And the armor is part of the plan. What kind of tools you're going to use to get through that play.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So
Let's
let's take a
pivot.
step forward. Let's
Okay.
pivot.
All
I like to
right.
pivot.
Yes. I
And
was going to
let's
swing in
play.
the chair, but I'd be too, I'd be dizzy afterwards. It wouldn't play in right. All
All right.
right.
So let's talk about the weekend. So you're being very, very giving, and you're having a friend join you on Christmas, which is a really amazing thing that you're doing to invite your friend for your in your home for. Tell me about that. Like, what is that? What is the dynamic going to be like with your family and having
Well,
a guest?
well, you already heard when we were on the call yesterday. I told her, I said, I'm going to apologize ahead of time for my family. I mean, we're just really loving, just loud and all. I couldn't see why else wouldn't I do it? You know what I'm saying? It's the holidays and she's going through separation of not having her family here or her partner, the separation of her partner. And it just seemed to be the right thing. It's the holidays. It's
Yeah.
about giving. It truly is about giving. And if I could just open up my home, it's going to be opened up anyway with the kids there. So why not invite her? Yet it's an interesting dynamic, as you said, because the home that I'm speaking of is the family home that I left in 2019. Well,
Right.
2015. Oh my goodness. All of a sudden it was like a deja vu moment. It's like, oh my goodness. And so yes, yet we have spent every holiday at the family home. So even though I am now divorced, I'm very fortunate in that my former and I are still very close. And so the dynamics will be it's family. It's just family. It's what we always do every holiday, every birthday. And so the friend that I'm inviting, she's a friend of mine. I think she's already met my former. And we're just inviting her in, loving up on her. Because again, it's one of those kind of things. How can you hear about someone struggling
Right. Yep.
and you've gone through or you have the ability to help them and you just sit around and say, oh, well, I just hope, I'll just be praying for you or whatever. How can you do that? And it's just another person in, and she's a lot of fun. I love her. She loves us. And it'll give her a really good holiday experience. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was a no brainer. It was just a no brainer for sure.
And I, you can just see it in her eyes how excited is to be there. So it's a really great thing to do. But yeah, I mean, there are people though that will be by
I know.
themselves on
Yeah.
Monday, and that's a really difficult situation for people. So what are the skills there? Like if you were home by yourself on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, how would you handle it hypothetically?
And the very first year I was home at Christmas because we didn't have the grandchild. So there was no need for me to go rushing over there at 6 in the morning, and our kids were older. And so, going back into 2015, how did I feel? I just accepted where I was, you know? I didn't
Yep.
fight it. I mean, because, we talk about the stages of divorce and how anger is the first one and then bargaining. Um, I accepted the fact that this is where I was. Because if I allowed myself to accept the fact And I don't mean acceptance into the fact that I was already to stage 7 in the divorce process, because I mean, I hadn't even started the process yet, was just being mindful, taking your word, being mindful that at this particular time, December the 25th, 2015, I was alone, physically alone. And I would say that would be number one step. I know it's like, what? Isn't there more than that? Yet, if we live in a fairy tale about where we are in life, we negate the fact that the swim along the riptide, of course, will get longer. So, it's like acknowledging where you are just gets you into the swim line against the
Right.
riptide. And I would have to say that would have to be number one, because what else could be number one to help you deal with where you are? I mean, what do you think about that?
So did you contemplate what the next year was going to be like? Did you have you didn't think that far ahead, right? You were just in the moment of it's December 25th, it's Christmas, and I'm here and I'm just going to embrace the situation.
I have learned through life, through trials, that if I'm not in this moment, and this is just me, some people can live in this moment and that moment and in the past. If you can do that, hooray for you. I can't do all that. You know what I'm saying? I can hardly live in the present. No, I had to resign to the fact that, like I say, acknowledge where you are. Where you are
Yeah.
is right here in this present moment, in this present time. And so if I compared my situation with next year, then I could see myself being in the same situation next year.
Next year.
Why would I do that? Oh, I'm sitting
Right.
up here hypothetically saying, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And the next year comes and I've just, bombed myself into depression. No, I accepted the fact that I was alone at this moment. It was my choice. It was my choice, because I left the marriage,
Right.
my
Yep.
choice. I accepted that. And then I was, like I said, very open, even with my former, went to the house and spent time with them. And I will tell you, once I left there and came back home, I had to deal with another set of feelings,
Right.
because
Yes.
you have
Yeah.
all of this, Christmas holiday gathering, all of this fun, the kids opening things, and there was still a little awkwardness, kind of like. And then I had to come home and spend Christmas night alone. There again, okay, Rana, this is where you are. Again, taking accountability. If it's your choice and this is where you are, accept the fact that this is where you are, and it's your choice to be where you are. And I'm not minimizing. Sometimes we have to leave because of certain
Right.
situations. Yet, I mean, yeah, that would probably be my first two things, and then everything else, like, and then understanding where you are is like dealing with your feelings, and that involves just dealing with all of that, being honest with yourself. If you need to cry, then cry, and then get it together, at least for part of that. I mean, the, yeah.
So what about, and I know we've talked about this a bunch of times on previous calls and in previous community meetings. When it's your first time on your own, whether it's a breakup or a divorce, whatever, or a death of a spot, whatever the situation, you're alone and you're walking into a situation. You're going to a party, you're going to family. What strategies do we advise people on walking through that door the very first time?
You know me, I always like to kind of keep things simple, even though I talk a whole lot. People would say, no, she doesn't. There's no way. Yes. Ask yourself four basic questions, kind of four basic questions. Like, what is it that you're going into? What are you about to face? Walking into the room for the first time after the husband has left you, and we've heard some stories, by Facebook or whatever. So, what are you walking into? Acknowledging. Everything is about acknowledgement. Everything is about mindfulness. Everything. Because we go into things not really accepting it. So, what are you walking into? Why is it giving you angst? Like, why
Yes.
is a
Yes.
situation
Why?
giving
Yeah.
why? It all leads to why. That's where my business card says it all leads to why.
No,
You know,
but
you
it does. Absolutely.
think about the most horrific story that you ever heard. What is the first question that you ask? Because they give you the who, the what, and the how. Why?
Why?
Why? So the strategies. Good. I'm glad you asked. Strategies. Four basic questions. Keep it simple. What? What are you facing? What are you going into? Why? Why are you feeling this way? Honestly, as anything, it may be obvious why you're feeling this way. And I say, write it down. Write it down. That way you can really acknowledge it and you can get it out of your head. And then how? What are the steps that you're going to use to get through what it is that you have to get through? We talked about this at the beginning, the steps that you're going to use. Like, okay, I will avoid that person. I will
Right.
gravitate to that
Exactly.
person. I will bring this dish. I will call them and let them know. And I also say, too, if you're walking into a situation, it's the holidays and it's a good friend, let them know, hey, look, this is my, and they should know, but yet sometimes you have to put people on notice. You can't assume that people will know how you're feeling, you know?
Well, right. Yeah. You,
And
you,
then with,
you, that, if you walk in that situation thinking that they understand what you're feeling, that's a mistake because
yes,
they can assume they know what you're thinking,
yeah,
but they have no idea. And
that's
as
right.
and as good-hearted as they may be in trying to say the right things to you, typically it's not the right thing, and it can almost be the trigger to
Yes.
make things even worse.
Exactly. So call the person if you have an invite and let them know how you're feeling emotionally,
Yep.
mentally, spiritually, and all of that. Then they know how to receive you. Okay.
Right.
So, what it is that you're walking into, why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, the steps that you can take. One of those steps could be calling ahead of time, having someone to go with you. If you just feel like I am unable to do this by myself, have
Right.
someone to go with you. And then when? When is the event going to happen? How much time do you have to prepare yourself? So the basic questions when you're trying to go through anything. I mean, and I think this can be relevant to any decision you have to make, job decision or whatever. You know, whatever, life.
Whatever. Yeah.
What it is that you need to do, think, whatever. Why? That's probably the most important question. Because if you can qualify or quantify the why, it drives everything else. It drives the how and the when. How are you going to do it? The strategic steps, resources, tools that you're going to use, and then when it's going to happen or when are you going to do it? So those would be my 4 steps, strategies to getting through the holidays or any situation in life.
Awesome. All right. So as we wrap this up,
Yes.
let people know where they can find you.
Well, you can find me at ronaperrydavis.com. Email is ronaperrylc@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram, same thing, Rana Perry Life Coaching. I said Rana Perry Davis, didn't I? It's ronaperrylifecoaching.com. Everything is Rana Perry. And my fun hashtag is Authentically Sugar. And I think it's coming through Authentically Sugar on Facebook. So,
Okay.
yeah, you can
So,
find me all those.
sorry, do the website one more time.
Rana, and that's RANA, well, PERI, lifecoaching.com.
Awesome. And I just want to let everyone know that starting on January the 8th, we
Oh,
have our next community is forming. There will be information up on the website, Our Journey from We to Me, where you can register for it. We look forward to, the community is very diverse and it
yes,
changes session to session. We get
it
different
does.
people. We have different walks of life. We have different situations.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a community, check out the website. We'll have more information on it. And so, Rana, I don't know if we're going to
Oh,
talk between
one
now
more
and the
thing.
holidays, but
One more thing.
yep.
And we're going to be doing a book on January. We're starting a book for this community. And we don't want to talk about the book, but I want to plant this question. As you're going through the holidays, what is something that you are regretting that one thing that has held you back and will probably hold you back into 2024. If you can name one thing or two things and join us on January 8th, because this session is going to be really, really fruitful and help you. I think moving on to the new year for sure.
Yeah. So again, reach out to Rana, reach out to me, go to the website. But we look forward to seeing people on January the 8th. I'm sure I'll talk to you before the weekend, but have a great.
Yeah, you better.
I'm sure we will.
Bye, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
and we're going to do
everybody.
this more often. I like this format. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
works
this
really
better
well.
than IG.
Yep.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
New is good. All right, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.